Hi friends, this is Parvati from Capstaki. Welcome to my channel. I need your support, so please subscribe, share and like my channel. Also, you can mention your valuable comments in the comment box. That is also helpful for me. If you're preparing any other exam, not only the CAPS, any other exam, you can refer my channel also. The basic theory, everything is same. Only the question patterns is differentiating the whole exams, okay? Today we are starting from the pharmacology first topic, autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system, we know the first slide I mentioned here. What is the autonomic nervous system? Two types are coming, central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. And central nervous system, it's coming, the brain and spinal cord is mainly the central nervous system. Peripheral nervous system means neurons outside the brain and spinal cord. Okay, the peripheral nervous system, again it's classified into two types, efferent and afferent neurons. Afferent means sense organs. Efferent, it's coming again into two classification, autonomic nervous system and somatic nervous system. Somatic nervous system, everybody knows, that is coming in the somatic nervous system, mainly the skeletal muscles. Voluntary actions are coming under somatic nervous system. In autonomic nervous system, involuntary actions, that means cardiac and smooth muscle glands. These are coming under autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system again classified into sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic means it's mainly known as adrenergic nerve system. Adrenergic means fight or flight response is coming under this one. Parasympathetic means rest or digest. It's also known as cholinergic. Cholinergic receptors mainly known as nicotinic and muscarinic. These are the receptors mainly known as the cholinergic receptors. Okay. The sympathetic nerve system, mainly the receptors are coming alpha receptors and beta receptors. Alpha, two types are coming, alpha 1 and alpha 2. Beta, actually three types are coming. I forgot to mention the third one here, but beta 1 and beta 2 is the important one, but beta 3 also there. Okay, don't forget to mention in your notes that one. Okay, and the next slide, it's coming normal introduction portion of the autonomic nervous system. The normal, whatever the not autonomic nervous system and whatever the functions are coming, that's I mentioned here. You can just read it. For the introduction purpose I mentioned here, but we want to thorough with everything. We can't say like that this portion is no need, but anyway we want to thorough with, these are the basic portions. If you're thorough with autonomic and central nervous system, the remaining portions is very easy to study it. Okay, so you can read it, that topics, that points you can read it. The important slide is next coming. I mentioned 3 points. What is the autonomic agents? Drugs that produce their primary therapeutic effect by mimicking or altering the function of the ANS are called autonomic drugs. These are the agents mainly stimulating or by blocking the action of the autonomic nerves. These are very important points. And the other important point also I mentioned here, synapse. What is synapse? Synapse is a small gap at the end of a neuron where signals can pass from one neuron to the next. Very, very important. I had the question from this topic also. So you want to thorough with that one. And next point I mentioned here, what is the calcium level happens in the presynaptic nerve. And this one actually in the lipin cord coming under cholinergic portion, but I mentioned here because the whole introduction portion I included this one. That time we are just starting for the drugs only, so that's why I mentioned here. The image is also I mentioned in the next slide. One of the important point in this topic, when action potential happen in the presynaptic terminal, the calcium influx is happen. That means the calcium level is increased in the presynaptic curve. So then it triggers the release of the neurotransmitter in the presynaptic area. This process is called exocytosis. Okay, the next slide I mentioned whatever the happen in the presynaptic cleft. Okay, just thorough with that one. It will useful in the remaining portion also when we are studying in the cholinergic, that time also it's very important. Okay, the next slide I mentioned here, what is efferent and efferent neurons. From the representation, image representation, we can understand what is the afferent and efferent, but again I mentioned the important definition about that one. The afferent neurons means bringing information from the periphery to the CNS. That is mainly called sensory neurons. Okay, efferent neurons carry the signals away from the brain and spinal cord to the peripheral tissues. That is called motor neurons. And next slide I mentioned what is efferent neurons. Mainly two types of neurons are coming in the afferent neurons, preganglionic and postganglionic. This differentiation also important. Based on this one, we can expect question in the caps also. So very simple points are mentioned here. So you want to thorough with it. Preganglionic means cell body in the CNS and it is myelinated also. That is important differentiating factor. The postganglionic means that is cell body in the ganglia and it is unmyelinated. Okay. The next one it's coming. The next slide I mentioned here. What are the again that is the two types of neurons are coming in afferent, preganglionic and postganglionic. But the preganglionic neurons are short in comparison to the postganglionic ones in the sympathetic system. Okay, that means the postganglionic is long in the sympathetic system, preganglionic is short in the sympathetic system. In the parasympathetic, the preganglionic fibers are long and the postganglionic neurons are short. Okay, these are very important point and we can expect question from this portion also. Okay, and what is the two neurotransmitters coming in the afferent neurons? That is ganglionic neurotransmitter and the neuroeffector transmitter. That is I already mentioned in the image also. You can check it, that one you can thorough with that one. Okay, you can understand from that picture. Okay, and the next one it's coming. What is sympathetic and parasympathetic? Mainly the site of origin, length of fibers, location of ganglia, the preganglionic fiber branching, distribution habits coming, the types of response, what is that? These are mentioned in the table representation. This is same as in the Lippincott also. You want to thorough with that because the site of origin, these things are very very important. That is the differentiating factor in between the sympathetic and parasympathetic also. You want to thorough with that. We can expect question from this topic also. The next slide I mentioned what is the parasympathetic actions, what is the sympathetic action. We want to thorough with this one. Very very important point, very very important portion, and this is the main basic for remaining portion also. So we want to thorough with that one. Okay, what is happen in the eye, heart, lungs, in the bile, liver and intestine, whatever happens, everything I mentioned here. Very simple representation. You want to thorough with these topics. Okay, I didn't describe because these are only points. We can read it and we want to thorough with that one, that much only. Okay, what is meiosis, what is mydriasis, and what's happened in the saliva, what's happened in the heartbeat. These things we can directly check it from this image. So you want to thorough with that. Don't forget, very very important topic, and we can expect the question from this topic also. Okay. And the next one it's coming, summary of the neurotransmitters released and types of receptors, types of neurons with the autonomic and somatic nervous system. This is same as Lippincott representation also. You want to thorough with this one. The remaining portions, everything based on this one. Okay, first we are starting from the autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system, mainly it's coming parasympathetic and sympathetic. In the parasympathetic, pre and post ganglia is there. These are the main difference between the parasympathetic and sympathetic. The post ganglia and pre ganglia, it's coming under parasympathetic, and the ganglionic transmitter is acetylcholine. That is, first it's acting on the nicotinic receptor of ganglia, then the same acetylcholine is acting on the transmitter on muscarinic receptor also. That means the parasympathetic acetylcholine is coming as the neurotransmitter. Okay, in the sympathetic nervous system, the direct sympathetic stimulation is happen. In the preganglionic neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. It's acting on the nicotinic receptor. But the postganglionic neurotransmitter, norepinephrine or noradrenaline, is the neurotransmitter that is acting on the adrenergic receptor. If you thorough with the image, you can easy to find it what is the neurotransmitter coming for parasympathetic, what is coming for the sympathetic. Okay, these are very whatever the highlighted points in the slide, very very important. We can expect question from this topic also. Okay. The next one I already mentioned in the first slide also, nicotinic and muscarinic receptor, also known as cholinergic receptor. Okay, the next one I mentioned here, what is somatic nervous system? Somatic nervous system we already discussed, that is voluntary response, that means skeletal muscles. There is no ganglia, one motor neuron only. Mainly the neurotransmitter is coming acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is acting on the nicotinic receptor. And one of the other important point also mentioned here, the neuromuscular junction. That means the acetylcholine act on the nicotinic receptor in the skeletal muscle or the striatal muscle. That junction, that acting junction is called as the neuromuscular junction. Very very important point. We can expect questions based on this one. And the next slide I mentioned, what is the remaining things we want to know about the somatic nervous system. It's mainly mentioned the peripheral nervous system responsible for carrying sensory and motor information to and from the central nervous system. And it's also mentioned, also responsible for the voluntary actions, that means the skeletal muscles. Okay. Compared with the autonomic, the somatic is faster because only one motor neuron is coming only there, so that's why. And the somatic nervous system contains two major types of neurons, sensory neurons and motor neurons, that means afferent and efferent. The afferent we know that is carrying the information from the nervous to the central nervous system, and motor neurons that carries the information from the brain and spinal cord to the muscle fibers throughout the body. These are mainly the neurons action, sensory and motor neurons action. We already mentioned in the first slide also the same thing. Okay. Then the neurotransmitters, whatever coming under the autonomic nervous system, mainly norepinephrine, epinephrine, acetylcholine, dopamine, serotonin, histamine, glutamate, gamma aminobutyric acid. Okay, the main important, the primary chemical signals in the autonomic nervous system, it's called autonomic acetylcholine and the norepinephrine. Okay, these are the main primary chemical signals. Okay, all things we want to know it because we don't know from which portion they will ask in the CAPS exam or in any other exam. We can expect the questions based on the transmitters, neurotransmitters. Okay, the next one, autonomic nerve fibers. Autonomic nerve fibers means cholinergic and adrenergic are coming. So cholinergic means I already mentioned the neurotransmitter in the cholinergic, mainly the acetylcholine. Okay. The next important points I mentioned here, the cholinergic agonist, it's the cholinergic agonist mainly the parasympathetic action, same as the parasympathetic action. That means they are also known as parasympathomimetic. Okay, the cholinergic antagonist means that is sympathetic action. That means parasympatholytic. Okay. And the autonomic nerve fibers, next one is coming adrenergic. Adrenergic means mainly the neurotransmitters coming under adrenergic, norepinephrine and epinephrine. Adrenergic agonist means sympathetic action, similar to the sympathetic action. So that's why this one sympathomimetic. Adrenergic antagonist means the action similar to the parasympathetic. So that's why it's known as sympatholytic actions. Okay, the next slide I mentioned here, signals transduction in the effector cell. What are the receptors coming under the effector cell? Mainly two types are coming, ionotropic receptor or ligand gated ion channel. The second one, metabotropic receptor or G protein coupled receptor. What are the examples for ionotropic and G protein coupled I mentioned here? For the ionotropic, nicotinic receptor. For the G protein coupled receptor, muscarinic and adrenergic receptor. The next point also important, mainly the ionotropic receptor, the sodium, potassium, calcium and chlorine ion channels are important point. The next one, the G protein coupled receptors, what is that and whatever it's coming, it's mentioned in the two boxes. Just read it. you want to thorough with these points because these are very very important. Whatever I describe here, very important point. We can expect question in the caps also. The next slide I mentioned what is the main difference between sympathetic system and parasympathetic system. Means whatever the actions coming under sympathetic and parasympathetic. What is mydriasis, meiosis. These are very important. Mydriasis and meiosis also based questions we can expect in the caps. The next slide I mentioned what is the mydriatic and meiosis. The symbol that means very important point. Okay, we can each and everything in the slide is very important, so you want to thorough with everything, especially the actions. Okay, very very confusing questions, very tricky questions are coming in the caps. We want, if you have the thorough knowledge about the basic portions, you can easily identify the what is the correct answer from the options. Okay, the next one also I mentioned the diagrammatic representation. You can thorough with that one also. Same as the 21st and 22nd slides are same as both same. One is just I describe it. The next one is diagrammatic representation only. Okay, the last slide I mentioned here extra points. Whatever I skip in the description, that's I mentioned here. Parasympathetic near vision, that means meiosis is coming. The eye action in the parasympathetic is meiosis, and dry mouth is called xerostomia. Maybe if dry mouth they are mentioning instead of that one xerostomia, we want to know it, so that's why I mentioned that one. And adrenal medulla under the control of sympathetic system is coming, and parasympathetic discharges as discrete fibers that are activated separately. These points I already mentioned there, but again I mentioned here also. Okay, and the baroreceptors are pressure sensors located in the cardiovascular site. This one again we will discuss in the adrenergic also. Okay, these are the main topics coming under autonomic nervous system. Introduction portion, this much only we want to thorough it. The next slide we are starting from the drugs. Okay, the next next portion it's coming from the cholinergic agonist portion. Okay, today I am just wind up here. Just I remind it again, I need your support, so please subscribe, share and like my channel. I need your support, don't forget it, and share with your pharmacy friends also. Okay, thank you.